a team of great journalists from Fine TV Gambia, your only viewpoint, are taking it upon themselves to bring you first-hand information about what exactly is in North Bank region, a place where history is at its peak, a place where history is beautiful, a place where you'll go and find beautiful history. So please stay tuned and follow us through the journey as we get you into North Bank and parts of North Bank and tell you about legacies of great men that we have in that particular region, and most especially in Albreda and Juffureh. We don't want people to be basing their facts on only books, but instead we want them to have first-hand information. We want people to hear from the horse's mouth themselves about what is said about Juffureh. Is it true or is it not true? We've all watched the movie of Roots, that is the Kunta Kinte movie, and there are a lot of contradictions, but today we promise to erase all your doubts, and we are working towards it, and we are not far from our destination. So do stay tuned. So please, you people that are watching, send in your questions that you might want to ask the family of Kunta Kinte or anybody in Juffureh today or Albreda. So please do send in your questions in the comment section. Yes, one of the greatest sons of this soil was born, brought up, and let us send into slavery to European countries. If you watch the Roots movie or you read the Roots book by Alex Haley, who is said to be the seventh descendant of Kunta Kinte, we've seen how he's been tortured and what pains have been meted on him along his journey through the Mediterranean, through the sea to Europe, as he was sent and sold by a slave. Despite the fact that he was one of the stubbornest members of that ship, he's still proven beyond measures. He is celebrated today worldwide. Good afternoon, beautiful viewers. As promised, here we are at the Juffureh Island. We've sailed through into the Kunta Kinte Island, and we've seen first-hand information about the Kunta Kinte Island. And to get videos of those of what actually had transpired in the Kunta Kinte Island, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to our YouTube channel, Fine TV Gambia, and get yourself equipped with first-hand information. And now we are here at the Slave Museum at Juffureh to give you first-hand information about what is happening here in the Slave Museum.
Taking island, right back to the mainland of Albreda, Juffureh, now at the village of Juffureh now, entering into the slave museum that was being a village of Juffureh. And there we have the title of the museum over there, and then the gentleman right in the front of us here is no other person, Patrick Gomez, who is one of the museum attendant taking care of the museum with his colleagues here, but he's one on the counter here today. We could. So there we are. Thank you very much once again. Come over.
We are behind schedule a little bit, but we actually going to get you first-hand information about everything that you need to know about Albreda and Juffureh. Stay tuned and always watch Fine TV Gambia, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel to Fine TV Gambia, and like our Facebook page, as this is your only viewpoint. This is the only media platform that goes the extra mile to feed its followers with vibrant information, very educative information about their historic sites, about their political issues, social lives, and things of that nature. And today we are taking an expedition, and expedition has to do with history. Whenever you talk about expedition, it hits hard on history. So that is our main motive.
So there you are very welcome to this very popular museum in the Gambia known as Juffureh Museum, or the title of the museum is no other thing but Voyage of No Return, because this is one of those things that our people have been taken into bondage once they're taken away from their homeland to start this journey from across the Atlantic. There is no way of anyone coming back home. That's why it's titled The Voyage of No Return, the Atlantic Slave Trade, the Senegambia. So that's the famous museum. Now we are welcome everyone inside. So this is actually some of the portraits showing you the conditions that our ancestors would have to go through. Like I told you, on the island, the statistics of people that perish along the way, there is about 13 to 3% of all those perish along the way. So that's why many of them have been treated in that manner in those dungeons to avert such a situation happening, of causing that rebellion. And this is how they have been shackled together all along. This is what they have been shackled to, treating them physically and mentally, to torture them, the purpose of getting them everything been weak physically so that they are transported away. They are not become any more harmful or a threat for them as well. And these are some provisions made because they will use shackles mostly. But at a certain time when they run out of shackles, they have to use yokes just to attack their necks together after shackling their legs and hands. And this is the way it is locally provided just to get them together from the neck. And that's the way the whole map of Africa, how the whole saga has been happening, like right from the other part of Africa coming down to Southern Africa. So it's mainly the coastlines of Africa that have been affected. So the trade itself is also widely known as the Atlantic slave trade or triangular slave trade. The triangular will show you the routes that actually they've been traveling from Europe to Africa, where the humans are coming from, and they're brought to America to work in the plants and mines. At the end of the way, they've been brought to the goods out there are brought to the European countries where they've been trying to find finished product and later brought back to Africa as well. And this one will show you some of the weapons that have been used in conduction of wars against like our kings, because we live in those beautiful kingdoms in the early 18th centuries, but this kingdom began to fall out apart because simply they were using those weapons against our people, supporting them in going to tribal wars or getting war people. This is one way of getting people into slavery, by getting some of these war prisoners to be battered with things like gunpowders, cowrie cells, needles, and tobaccos. So this is another form of getting the people into bondage or into slavery. And the next glass we have in here, we can see some instrument like I told you. These are some of the evidence, like the shackle we saw there, and some of these whips and some of these shackles for the legs and the hands, and the what they used to brand them with as well. Like I told you on the island, due to the number of people dying along the way, so therefore they said the black people were difficult with them to identify them. So the only thing they can do is to use the symbol of the companies or masters to be using them to brand them before they start going on board, as their way of identifying them. So there, there's the similar map we saw on the island there. So now we are in the second hall of the museum. So there you can see another form of a yoke used against our ancestors. I like the people who are always becoming a threat for them. These are some of the ways of handling them, training them, just to give them more physical. With this is the worst thing, because once it's locked on your neck, you can never lean on any wall, you can never lie on the ground, but it only keeps you on your feet. So no matter stronger you are, you become very weak. And looking at here, this was a point I was telling on the island, that it was at the beginning they were focusing more on women who are conceived, but along the way they have to start forgetting about it, coming back to Africa to get a new supply, because they feel it takes too long before the children become very productive for it. So this is one way that the number of coming from Africa get increased, because they are not doing away with those things now. So here you can see the whole map, how the whole routine was happening, and showing you the statistics. But is this reality? Because looking at here, 1650 to 1860, 10 to 15 million. But back from here, when the Europeans start coming to Africa in the early 14th centuries, coming down to here, how many another 100 millions have been taken or have died in the whole saga? And this is the beginning of this terrible journey across the Atlantic. It started from the preparation at the deck of the ship, coming down, finally getting inside the holds of the ship. But here, everybody looks very good and healthy. Our ancestors were all looking good and healthy. But when they start this terrible journey under those inhygienic conditions, whatsoever poor conditions they've been kept in, and where they encounter disease, plague, and everything. So the rest of the people who are able to survive the journey will later be brought here. After numerous of them die, the rest are brought here, which is known as the recovery stage. But here, the rest of them survive. They want them to come upstairs to regain fresh air and stuff like that, so that they can recover from muscle problems where they've been sitting for too long. So this is the recovery stage. And Amistad, he was one of those people who was very renowned, as he led one of those successful rebellions in 1839. This show you some of the descriptions, how slaves have been packed inside the slave ships, how they've been bundled inside like sardines. This is why too many of them, because inhygienic condition, poor ventilation, whatever you think goes in here. So that's why many cannot survive this journey to the New World and other part of the world. And this is how do we get to the abolition of slavery? And then eventually African kings, Europeans only will use their own part of history, but the battle started with the African kings who have started recognizing slavery, the impact of it in their kingdom, started to fight against it. But because they are black people, they're Africans, because of their interest, they never wanted to listen. So till at the end, we got countries like Haiti coming in to fight against. Haitian rebellion started, and eventually they got independent as one of the Flag Republic 1801, and then there later we got countries like Britain also coming until we get Thomas Clarkson, Granville Shaw, William Falls, and many other people who get slavery to be abolished in Britain and become outlaw 1808, and this is when further they start coming down to Africa to reinforce the abolition of slavery, until we have the partition also started. And to the other side that have also been very relevant connection to the island, Kunta Kinte Island. Some are outside of the village. I told you on the island. One of them is the Sistman Batsi we have in Banjul, which is right now currently being within these 10,000 premises. So it can be accessed. And the next one is the fort. The fort that is last been built in 1826 as a zone of trying to suppress slavery by controlling the African River. But similarly, this particular point was not only used for operation, it was also used as a artillery zone during the time of the British in the Gambia to fight against the Frank Nagans who may want to go into the Gambia. We have some important documents. One of them is the book you can see here. This is one of those books that we've been using recording people who have been repatriated as slaves to Freetown, Sierra Leone. This is just one of those books. They were recording their names. And these are some of few materials that were also being used in a form of what we call the barter trade. Like after war pieces have been acquired, these are some of the materials they use in the exchange for them as slaves. And there we have the life in the plantation. This is how some of the terrible things that is meted on our ancestors after they have been taken from their homelands to the unknown world. You can see how they've been punished, how they've been using the plantation in all forms, when slaves would have no right to claim whatever, overwork, over whatsoever you might think about. There is far beyond their humanity or their recognition. And this is one way people can always acquire slaves, like this, how they've been promoted, advertised, where you can come and look at the quality of slavery that you wanted, either being a house cleaner or whatsoever, fisherman, like you can see here, this man is 21 years of age as a good house servant. So meaning you can have their name, you can have their age and their sex as well, so you will be able to know what quality actually looking for. And that's the new generation. It's one of those part of the museum donated here by what we call George Haley. George Haley was one of those people in the Gambia as an ambassador to the United States. So he donated this part of the museum with some important black people. But this is all talking about the generational change of ancestors who have been all taken from this African continent to America, from different parts of Africa. And eventually there was a time when you tell somebody a black will become a president of the United States, they will tell you are crazy. But today we have people like Oprah Winfrey, who is one of the richest black women in America, and we have people like Benjamin, one of the black brain surgeons, and we have her also, who became one of the first black women to go into space. And we have people like Condoleezza Rice as well, who become the first black Secretary of State of the United States as well. And then this is the next picture here in front of us. That's Alex Haley, the renowned author of the popular book and the film called Roots, Alex Haley, who became Kunta Kinte's 7th generation United States. And that's one of our distant cousins he met in the Gambia back in 1967. So these are the two distant cousins. So this is the man who researched for 12 years in the United States, and he was able to come to this country here. And that's the very picture of the family he met. This old man there, you can see Alex in the necktie. The old man there was one of the renowned historians called Keba Kanyifomana, who was the narrator of the story to Alex Haley in 1967. So behind the old man, that's the lady there, Binta Kinte, the one with the beads on the neck here. So this is some of those family he met. But almost, I can say, all these people have passed away. They've been succeeded by the new generation. Alex is the one in the necktie there. So the other one there, because he first came here after 12 years in America, he came to this country in 1967 with Hip Manga, to the company of Hip Manga. So when he came, the second time he came, because after he came to the village and seen all the evidence, he went back. The second time he came was 1972. That was when he came with the writers and the actor of the movie. And they were being told all the story, because this man told him that Kunta Kinte's family, Kairaba, originally were from Mali Empire. It was after the empire collapsed, he moved to Mauritania to study Islam. It was after his completion, because the man was an Islamic scholar. So when he came to Gambia, according to history, he was in the southern bank, Kianjifaro. But later he moved to the village of Juffureh, because that's a common tradition of within Api. So this is the village where he comes to live in the North Bank here, in the village of Juffureh. So after being there, where he was offered the land and a compound to get married, so he got married there and had a son called Amoro Kinte. This was the only son he had. So Amoro, being his only son, has also had to get married at a lady called Binta Keba, where they have 4 sons, and this eldest was Kunta Kinte, born in 1750. So at age of 1776, this young man was kidnapped from the forest while he was collecting firewood, taken to the very island where we come from, which is today called Kunta Kinte Island, then finally there to across the Atlantic to Annapolis, where he was sold. But according to Alex Haley, when Kunta was taken to America, there, the first thing they did was to make them lose their identity. He was called Toby, but this was the name Kunta Kinte has always been rejecting that he is no Toby, he is Kunta Kinte from the Kamibolong, means the River Gambia. That's the original name of his country. So he continued his struggle and fight to escape. And for many occasions, he had been trying to escape until finally he was being caught. He has to be amputated. So during his amputation, there was a lady called Belle in the plantation who was been very supportive to her, very kind to her. So it was through that the two were able to get married at a certain point. They got their only daughter called Kissy. So the only daughter Kissy at the age of 18, because they understand that the parents are trying to tell her the stories of their origin and order industry. So the only thing they can do is to get the child away from them and sold them to another plantation. So this young girl eventually looks very beautiful. So they said he was kidnapped, raped by her master, Tom Lee, and they have a son called George, who was named Chicken George. So this very family of Kunta Kinte did ascend in America till you have Simon Haley, then you have Alex Haley become his seventh generation. So this man, according to him also, when he was little boy, all this information has been filtered down to him. So where they will be taking him along one of the tours called around the Mississippi River, and they will try to tell him this river looks like Kamibolong. And then where he ancestors came from, and they came to America as slaves, and many of his stories. So this young man going to school till he finished decided to make research in archives and conferences, linguistics, because most of these languages were in Mandinka words. So he has to operate in linguistics. So during the struggle, where he was able to meet one of the Gambian called Ilumanga, who was then going to America and stories, told him he was from this country here. It was
So I think this has brought us to the actual end of our tour here at Juffureh, and the tour really ends at the most important part of it all, where we are shown artifacts about the remains of the late Kunta Kinte and some great black men like Black Haley, Binta Kinte, Martin Luther King Jr., among other great people of the black race. And I hope and pray that people outside this country and even within this country should embrace our history and come and know what is exactly happening here in Juffureh. I hope and pray that the history of this place is preserved for future generations to come and see and know exactly what happened. So this is all we have for you, and please stay tuned as we upload the videos from the Kunta Kinte Island on our YouTube page. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel and then find very educative and interactive videos there. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.